The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass Podcast. This for UFC Vegas 7. Munhoz versus Edgar at Bantamweight. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined in studio by Pat Mayo behind the scenes and Cody Saftic here in studio. Unable to get the parlays cooking last
Son
week.
of a bitch.
I mean, JDS was looking all right.
He
was looking all right until Jairzinho has this thing where it's just like he doesn't really do all that much. And then when he wants to turn the pressure up, it's what happened over him at the end of round 5. It's when what happened against JDS when he realized he's down. He definitely lost round 1. Round 2, he started coming on, obviously, right in the middle there and put him away. I mean, that's the risk you play when you play heavyweight MMA. We did get the main event right. My boy Pichel.
Oh, baby, yeah.
That one was exactly kind of how we wrote it up in here. So it wasn't...
Well, you're the Vince Pichel whisperer, so that one I had lots of faith in.
If only he would fight more than like once a year.
If he fought 3 times a year, he'd be on a yacht right now somewhere, pal.
Yeah,
but he's fought in 8 times in 6 years. So you've made money on all 8 times, so thankfully.
Before we get into all the action here... You're enjoying this on the Pat Mayo Experience podcast feed, or you're watching on the DraftKings YouTube channel. We're going to be moving locations, but everything is going to more or less stay the same here. Pat, why don't you let them know about what we've got cooking up?
Yeah, if you want to continue watching the Dogger Pass podcast, hit the description of this video or podcast, and you will find the link to the Mayo Media Network. That's where this show will start to appear sometime within like the next month, maybe in a few weeks. Whenever that might be, you're going to want to be subscribed so you don't think that the show mysteriously disappeared like it did last time, although it didn't disappear. It's just people couldn't find it. I'm telling you right now, go subscribe to the Mayo Media Network YouTube page so you don't miss a Dogger Pass podcast. Also, in the coming weeks, if you are an audio listener, the Dogger Pass podcast will be exiting the Pat Mayo Experience audio feed and going on to its own audio feed. So once we have that all set up, I will run another show on the Pat Mayo Experience to let everyone know this is where we're going. And everyone, if you see people out there who are like, what happened to the show? Just tell them where they can find it. That's the best way to do this. Word of mouth and get everyone over subscribed to the Mayo Media Network. All right? Thanks.
2 quick points. One, Pat's like the pod dad, like letting us leave the nest now. So we'll have our own podcast audio feed there. But 2, the week that we move over, like sub now. And because of the week of it, when I see 100 questions, where's the podcast? Why didn't the podcast go up? I'll know that you haven't been listening. And I may not be in a hurry to tell you where it's been going. So yeah, sub now. It's in the description. No excuses. It's going to be happening in the next couple weeks. Nothing really changes from anything except for you're going to a different link location. I mean, you're clicking, it'll be the same. You click a link if you're doing it on Twitter and all that stuff. Otherwise, you'll already be subbed and everything should just work out. Why don't we talk about some fights?
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Pedro Munhoz takes on Frankie Edgar, 135 pounds. Frankie moving down, former lightweight king, down to 145. Even at 145, you're kind of thinking, this guy is not really a featherweight. He's probably a bantamweight. Finally moving down, really late in his career, though, to 135 pounds. I think this move would have been a lot better for him. Years ago, Munhoz is a minus 255 favorite. Frankie Edgar can be had for plus 215. Any immediate takeaways from this? Like, it's hard to trust Edgar coming in. Just you never seen him come in at this weight class. I expect him to make weight. I expect him to look fine. I don't think he's going to look like sucked dry like Aldo. Aldo was already at least a decent sized featherweight. Like Frankie looked small next to Aldo.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Frankie, he's going to look leaner than we're used to seeing him. When he was fighting at 155 pounds, the guy just didn't cut weight at all. He probably walked around at like 158, just didn't eat breakfast that morning, would show up and retain his title.
Yeah.
But, he's older. It gets harder cutting weight when you get older. I think if you like Edgar, you can't even consider a wager until you see him step on the scales. I don't actually like Edgar. I think Munhoz has the dynamic grappling Munhoz is able to take damage, punishment. He gets hit a lot, but Frankie, save only for knocking out Chad Mendes, hasn't exactly shown any sort of crazy knockout power. I think it's just Frankie Edgar's a little bit too long in the tooth. Munhoz younger, on a tear. Minus 255 seems crazy when it's next to Frankie Edgar's name, but too many red flags around Frankie Edgar coming into this one for me. Munhoz is the pick. Haven't made a bet on it yet, though. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of the points for sure. I mean, seems like Frankie Edgar, it's just such an odd time in your career to be dropping down to 135 pounds, considering people have been talking about it for years. When they opened up 135 and 145, it was like, Frankie, go down. But he could compete at 155, so he did. Then when he went down to 145, it's like, man, you can't beat Jose Aldo. He's the champ at the time. Drop down to 135, but he says no. And then when Holloway becomes the champ, well, I'll fight Holloway then. That'll be my path to the title. But you can't beat Holloway either. These guys are all just a little too big for him. I would have loved to see him at 135, again, years ago. But now you get, he's 38, he'll be 39 in a few months. It's like you're getting him right at the tail end of his career, known for his legendary chin. But now Brian Ortega's knocked him out. Now Korean Zombie's knocked him out. Both of them iced him in the first round. Both of them nice knockouts. One's got to wonder, is it taking on guys that are bigger than him that's the reason he's getting knocked out, or is it just a career worth of damage that's getting at him? But 135 just makes almost way too much sense for the guy. Consider this, right? Chang Sung Jung, what, 5'10", I think. Max Holloway, 5'11". Cub Swanson, 5'8". Brian Ortega, 5'11". Rodriguez, 5'11". Jeremy Stevens, 5'7". Jose Aldo, 5'9". Chad Mendes, 5'6". Uriah Faber, 5'6". Those are the only times that he's fought in guys that were his height. And like you mentioned, oh, geez, that was the time he got the knockout. Because Frankie shows up a little short on a lot of his punches, his combinations especially. He's got a fast jab. He's quick from the outside, bounces around, obviously. Good, works out to the body, and then jumps out of the pocket. But again, he just doesn't really have a giant reach on him, and he's always the smaller man. The only two times he's fought in guys that were actually his size, which is the examples of Chad Mendes and Uriah Faber, he's looked phenomenally good. Problem is that Chad Mendes fight is 5 years ago. So yeah, he's going to look a lot better at 34 than he's at 39. One's got to wonder, does he have the power, all these different things. But listen, he's got a lot of skills here that he can use to his advantage coming in against Pedro Munhoz. One, you talked about the dynamic grappling of Pedro. No question about it that Pedro Munhoz has a grappling advantage. But one, Frankie Edgar never been submitted. No. Trains at an absolute elite camp with some of the best wrestlers and grapplers around. So he has that going for him. But also, does Pedro take down Frankie Edgar? No, he doesn't absolutely. So now we got a striking battle. Who's got the better hands? Frankie Edgar by a landslide. See, Pedro Munhoz, not only is he 5'6", he has a 65-inch reach. Just absolutely abysmal in the reach department.
T-Rex arms.
All those guys I mentioned before him not only had the height advantages, the Max Holloways and the Rodriguez, they have like 5, 6, 7-inch reach advantages. So Frankie's used to having to fight on the outside, try to overcome these big reaches, get on the inside on these guys. Whereas at least with Pedro, he's going to hit this guy when he wants to hit this guy. And you said it best yourself, Pedro, very fucking hittable. Guy is absolutely there to be hit. Has he ever been knocked out? No. But has he been stunned? Absolutely. Cody Garbrandt had him massively stunned. And I would say to a lesser extent in his last fight with Aljamain Sterling, he looked hurt in the first round. Now, Aljamain Sterling's knocked out 2 guys in his entire career, right? He has not knocked out a man in 6 years since he knocked out Hugo Viana back in 2014. Not a power puncher. But he nails 174 significant strikes over a 3-year period of time over Pedro Munhoz. All I'm saying is if Frankie comes in with the same punch volume, which he's not, but if he comes in with good punch volume, he's got better punches, he's got more technical boxing, he is way faster than Pedro. Now that brings us to the other point with Pedro. Okay, who are the guys that have beaten Pedro? All of them have significant speed advantages over him. He struggles with the speed massively. Aljamain Sterling, well, he's just really fast, right? But he could not get a hold of him. Sterling's landing 3, 4, 5 punches every time Pedro can close the distance and land 1. So let's go a little bit before that. John Dodson. He just couldn't track John Dodson. John Dodson's in and out of the pocket. He's hitting him. Pedro's just off to a slow start. The Cody Garbrandt fight, thank God, No Brain Garbrandt gets into a gunfight with him because he's so much faster than Pedro the first half of the round. Now, because he's got the 65-inch reach, he relies on his kicks, and his kicks are deadly. Leg kick, slow you down. Body kick, absolutely zap the energy of you.
Frankie spends a lot of time with Marlon Moraes, though, so he should be ready for that.
And Frankie's best takedowns are actually coming off caught kicks, right? So even though it doesn't seem like you want to go to the ground with Pedro, Frankie has no problem going with the ground with Pedro. You don't want to be on the ground with Pedro on your back. And Aljamain tried to take down Munhoz a pile of times. He wanted to grapple with him as well, just wasn't able to. Frankie better wrestler. Frankie closed that pocket a little bit better, a little bit stronger. It's just we don't know what we're getting at 39. So I think the best thing you do is, weigh in aside, is that Frankie, fast starter. Pedro Munhoz, not exactly a Frank starter. I think you go with the live bet option again. I think if you do want Pedro Munhoz, 255, too big of a price tag. But 5 rounds, too much for Frankie. This is a 3-round fight. I'm taking the dog. I'm taking Frankie Edgar as a dog pick in a 3-round fight because I think he could hustle him up for 2 rounds and maybe
And
lose
then
a
take
third.
him down in round 3, just don't get subbed.
Yeah, but rounds 4 and 5 get sticky because, geez, if he does get hit, and the longer you fight Pedro, by the way,
Plus,
Pedro
it's the first time he's ever done this weight cut, so you don't know how he adjusts for
coming off a knockout
cardio.
loss. Coming off a knockout loss. First time cutting down to 135. And yeah, Pedro got hit 174 times by Aljamain. He hit him 100 times back. He landed some nice shots in Aljamain. Aljamain takes it. Does Frankie take it? I don't know. The leg kicks, they'll definitely play a part the longer the fight goes. So it's a 5-round, it makes it greasy. I think 255 is just too big of a price tag on Pedro. So I think you let Frankie get his notorious fast start, you see how he looks, and then as the line starts to close up a little bit, you would look for Pedro in those later rounds just to try to get a better price tag. So last thing I want to add, knows I'm just throwing tons of information in here, but one thing I want to add on Pedro Munhoz is one of the reasons he's such a dark horse in the division is that you don't really think about him as one of the top guys, but he just fights so often that he's just always in shape. He's always ready to go. The guy doesn't generally take layoffs. You look at his entire UFC career, fights a sunset, right? 3 months later, fights Matt Hobar. 5 months later, Jared Sanders. That's important. We'll get back to that. But the Russell Doan fight. 3 months later, Scoggins. 6 months later, Damian Stasiak. 5 months later, Rob Font. 8 months later, the Dodson fight. 6 months later, Brett Johns. 4 months later, Brian Caraway. 4 months later, Cody Garbrandt. And then 3 months later, Aljamain Sterling. He's always fighting. The only one layoff he's had in his career is when he beat Jared Sanders. He tested positive for steroids. He got a 1-year ban. The fight after that was Jimmy Rivera, and he looked flat early. See, when you compete all the time, your timing's really good, right? It's live action. It's like, man, I fight 3 times a year. There's no ring rust. There's nothing to get around. Coming off that year-long layoff, you haven't competed the 3 times in the year that you're accustomed to, your timing's going to be a little bit off. So I do see Frankie getting off to a quick start on him, and I think if anything, he's going to have to get settled. Once he gets settled and he gets hit a few times and he wakes up, then he's going to come on. Then he's going to start pressuring Frankie. Then I'm really going to be worrying about Frankie in rounds 3, 4, and 5 and his durability and the cardio and the weight cut and all these different things. But early, I think Frankie has a lot of advantages. So I'm actually looking to kind of live bet this one or pass. We'll get to DK, $7,200, Frankie Edgar, what the hell. But that's later on in the show.
All right, we got Alonzo Menifield taking on Ovince St. Preux. Alonzo Menifield, minus 135 favorite. Ovince St. Preux, plus 115. The question with Alonzo Menifield was always, what happens if he doesn't get the knockout in round 1? Well, we saw it last time.
Yeah, you did.
And we saw it against Devin Clark, who, chinny guy, undersized for the division. I mean, I was saying all the same.
Oh, yeah, I say the
stuff.
same thing all the time, too. Yeah, I hear you.
And Menifield cracked him. Landed like a monster, especially in round 1. Like blew up his eye. Clark, credit to him, was able to survive. Menifield had nothing to do in rounds 2 or 3. Maybe we can get prop bet Pat on top of this one. If you had any interest in Alonzo Menifield, just bet him round 1. I don't know if the round 1 prop is out yet, but Alonzo Menifield by knockout would be the second option. Because might as well, why pay the minus on any sort of number? This guy is either a first round knockout in this spot, or OSP is going to maintain, stay at distance, probably get cracked at least once or twice, and then obviously if OSP gets this fight to the mat, could easily see a quick submission here. But what's Menifield by knockout? What's Menifield round 1?
By knockout, DQ, or submission is plus 120.
Might as well, yeah.
Round 1 is plus 260.
Those are the only 2 bets that even make sense to me.
What is he by decision, out of curiosity?
Oh, you're crazy.
Well, we'll get to that.
By decision.
I know OSP gasses too, but you're
This
crazy.
could be real
Menifield
sloppy,
is
bro.
plus
After the first
550 by
round.
decision.
Okay.
Plus 550?
Okay.
No, you're
okay.
sick. You're
so,
sick.
So who do you have?
I have OSP. I think OSP, if OSP gets
Gasses
the
him
fight
out?
to the mat, I don't know. I can't trust on just a knockout punch. Of course, it's in the range of outcomes. It very much could happen, but I just see more paths to victory with Ovince St. Preux, a guy who's Went 5 rounds with John Jones.
Yeah, fair.
It was not
Okay,
the best
fair.
John Jones. Don't get me wrong. John Jones was coming off of his own layoff at the time. He looked horrible, but he went 5 rounds with John Jones. You think he can not get knocked out in the first round against Alonzo Menifield? Very, very good chance that he can. I actually like OSP to get the win here.
Yeah, fair enough. I think you can't discredit OSP. I think this is probably closer to a 50-50 fight. Truth be told, when the fight got announced, before there was a line on it, I was like, ooh, I'm going to fade OSP, dog price on Menifield. And then I see Menifield as a slight favorite. It's like, maybe you don't like it quite as much. But I'm kind of leaning towards Menifield. Okay, OSP has gone 5 rounds with John Jones once upon a time. Just like so much has changed for him since then. I just don't really know what he's got left in the tank at this point. He's got a tendency to gas massively. And that's going to play out well because Alonzo Menifield apparently has a tendency to gas out massively. So even if the fight gets beyond the first round, I would lean towards OSP because he's got the back class, he's got the experience, he's got all these different things. However, I feel like Menifield is kind of a live dog in that spot. Although he's coming in as a favorite, that's what makes you worry. But again, getting back to OSP. OSP losing to Ilir Latifi, first round, right? Dominic Reyes fight, beaten pillar to post. The point most takeaway I had of that fight, because, it's Reyes. He's fighting for the title now. He gave Jones a good run. He's a top talent, right? It's just he allows himself to not throw any strikes. He stands there, and he allows his opponent to just get off quicker, right? That's kind of been the tendency in his career. He's kind of just like a slow start. He's a lackadaisical guy. Maybe he lands a strike. Maybe he ends up on top of you and Von Preux you. But there's just not enough activity on the feet. That's why a guy like Jimmy Manuel will knock him out. That's why like a guy like Michael, Lomnianchuk?
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, sorry, right here. Alexichuk. Yeah, the Prince. He 10-8s him in the first round. Absolutely beats the crap out of him. But OSP survives. OSP gets that second round. But this is the biggest thing. OSP is a top fighter at 205 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. He's getting a little bit older. He's starting to slide down the rankings. He's not as durable as he used to be. His cardio is not as good as it used to be. He's winning less fights than he's losing at this stage. And then inexplicably, he takes the Ben Rothwell fight at heavyweight. Now, that fight was only...
Rothwell there.
Yeah, yes. And thankfully, Rothwell won. Split. Total bullshit
Rothwell
split.
also
He won.
did nothing and then started turning it on.
Right. So Rothwell does nothing, which is kind of how Rothwell fights these days. But OSP, thankfully, pattern here, does the same thing. He just throws even less. He knocked down Rothwell. That's the only reason the fight's considered competitive, is that knockdown. He would sit there for 4.5 minutes and not do anything, and with 30 seconds left, land some big punch. He ends up losing the decision. He was outstruck by Ben Rothwell. He was taken down by Ben Rothwell. He gassed out quick by Ben Rothwell. But above all else, he weighed in.
Taking on a 265-pound
Yes, and that's understandable. He's been gassing in other fights, but now he's taking on a big heavyweight, and Rothwell was leaning on him. Like, I totally get it. But he weighs in at 240 pounds, okay? So now, 3 months later, he needs to shed 34 pounds to get from probably what was his walk-around weight of 240 back down to 205. Now, consider this is a 37-year-old man who's been having trouble with weight cutting, who's been having trouble with gassing out later in fights, and he's taking on Alonzo Menifield. They both have the same problem with the
needs
gassing.
one round of cardio against Alonzo Menifield, who's cooked after
Right,
5
so
minutes.
now OSP is a pretty good striker, but Menifield, in his lone loss, the takeaway was he didn't get knocked out. I'll give you one thing. He fought to the end. And that was a big thing for Alonzo Menifield, because I sit here many weeks and I've sat in front of you and I've told you exactly this. I like when these undefeated guys lose a fight. You got to lose a fight to figure out where did it go wrong. He's just smoking everybody out in the first round. There's no real need to learn. His sparring partners are going easy. He probably has gas in the gym. But as far as live action fight situation, Alonzo Menifield has been outside of the first round once in his entire career. Went to the second round and then knocked the guy out in the second round. So him fighting Devin Clark, it's a big telltale of, is he going to win the first round and absolutely shit the bed? Yes, but no. He wins the first round. In the second round, he got taken down once on 10 takedown attempts by Devin Clark. He fought his takedowns all the way to the end. Got taken down in the third, is so exhausted, and fights to get back up. He fights to the end. Now, he is not coming off a 3-month layoff where he's got to drop out on this 36 pounds. He's coming off a 2-month layoff from the Devin Clark fight. That Devin Clark fight builds cardio. It builds your cardio. Now he's been to the third round. Now he knows what he's made of. Now he's going to have that learning experience in the pocket. I know, what is 2 months going to improve his cardio that much? It's more than that. It's the nerves. It's the now being able to be in the second round and be like, I can do this. Be in the third round, I can do this. Devin Clark didn't knock him out. Devin Clark didn't submit him. Devin Clark just worked him because he's a wrestler and he works people. 1 for 10 on takedowns in that fight. And he's a much better wrestler than OSP.
Devin Clark's
smaller than
wrestling
OSP.
isn't great.
Junior college. But all the same, the guy wrestled collegiately. OSP played football collegiately, right? I mean, Devin Clark is a much better wrestler than OSP. OSP is just bigger. All I'm saying is that Menifield will come out here and give OSP a first round. And that's hard for OSP because OSP probably needs to have a good first round himself. In the second round, when they both start to tire, I know what you're saying. If you take Menifield, you take Menifield by knockout. If Menifield doesn't knock him out in the first round, and in the second round it gets sloppy, but Menifield edges it out, and in the third round OSP might beat him back, who knows? Menifield picks up a decision. So I would rather just take the 135 than chase the plus money prop. I know 550 on decision sounds enticing, but this is going to be a sloppy fight. This is a sloppy card. 10 fights. It looks more like UFC Contender Series. It really does, right?
I mean, there's a lot
Pedro
of...
Munhoz, Frankie Edgar's badass.
Half of the people on this card have come directly from Contender Series.
Menifield, Mike Rodriguez,
Joe
Marcin
Solecki.
Prachnio should be on there. Marina Agapova.
Austin Hubbard, I believe,
Shane
was on
Dobson
it as well.
is a tough
Jordan
veteran.
Wright.
The whole card.
Yeah.
So it's a real sloppy card, and most times this would be second or third fight on the card, and I'd say pass. It's fun. This is gonna be fun. Menifield versus Alvin St. Preux, sign me up. But as far as a betting standpoint, it's like, man, I think I got to capped it closer to 50-50, but Menifield's the favorite. But in my head, I feel like he's gonna pull it out. OSP's got to show something to redeem himself. He has not shown that. What he has shown is last fight, looks absolutely awful, doesn't let his hands go. Fight before that, he takes a life-changing beating in the first round by a guy who's not a 205er, by the way. Oleksichuk is probably closer to a 185er.
I feel like we're talking a lot about a fight that we don't have any interest in betting.
Blows through him. Tyson Reyes blows through him. Ilir Latifi blows through him. What takeaway do we have? So I can't feel confident, and I'll have to go Menifield here.
So, Cody,
Yeah.
what if St. Preux misses weight and just comes in heavy? Like, what happens then at the weigh-ins?
Yeah, if he misses by like 5 pounds, as an OSP bettor, I'd be happy because I'd be like, you know what? That means that he didn't push himself to try to cut that extra weight.
If he comes in like 5 pounds, sure, but he's a professional, and he'll make
if
it
he
as
misses,
close
he's gonna
to
miss
possible.
close. Yeah.
Yes, and because he already has a bad gas tank, it'd be different if he was walking around at 220, 225, maybe 230. But when he realized, oh, I'm fighting Ben Rothwell, you know what he did? Go check out his Instagram. He decided, I gotta put on some bulk. You put on that bulk. Now you lose to Ben Rothwell, you realize, I'm not a heavyweight, I gotta go back down. But it's similar to Frankie in the sense that, yeah, OSP already fought 205, but dropping that weight now, it's different the older you get. OSP's made 205 his entire career, you know? He was a big 205er, he was a huge 205er, but he always made 205. Going up to heavyweight is like the natural progression, right? He didn't come in at 220, he didn't come in at 230, he came in at 240. That's pretty sizable. That's a big heavyweight as far as I'm concerned. To now drop down to 205, that's a big task, man. And so I would have to have a better price than 115 if I was going to back him. And for that reason, it's either pass or slight edge Menifield.
We got Mike Rodriguez taking on Marcin Prachnio. Mike Rodriguez minus 235 favorite. Prachnio can be had for plus 195. Who do you like?
So here's another bullshit fight that'll probably just ruin some type of parlay for you because Mike Rodriguez is definitely a better fighter. He is so much more technically sound. Guy keeps up his hands. He's super long, 6'4" for the weight class. Great knees up the middle. Wrestling defense, that's obviously where it looks to be his issue. The fights that he's lost in the UFC, it's generally because his opponents are taking him down. We'll get to his last fight where Da-Ung absolutely starched him. But prior to that, it's like he gets taken down lots, but he's always getting back up. He's always working his way back up. 31 years old, slow Mike, not bad. He doesn't use his reach particularly well. He seems to kind of get in the pocket and clinch up with guys a lot more than I'd like for a guy that's 6'4" with that kind of reach on him. But all the same, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like with him as far as like a mid-tier to like lower tier prospect goes. Then that Dong Jung fight. I don't even think that's how you pronounce it, but let me just bring it up. Then that fight, and it kind of changes everything. Because prior to that, Mike Rodriguez had, as I mentioned, dealt with a grappling problem. He had not dealt with a knockout problem. That was the first time he got knocked out. And boy, oh boy, did he get knocked out. 1 minute into the round, starched, short right hand, puts him down. It's like, okay, maybe he can take the greatest of punches. When he's fighting in the UFC, he had generally fought lower level of competition. Here's another guy that got out-grappled by Devin Clark, and he got out-grappled by John Allen. They just took him down a pile of times. Adam Milstead tried to stand in exchange with him. He got the win over Milstead. Da Ung Jung stands in front of him and he sparks him. So at best, you can't really trust him. There's multiple paths to victory here. You can take him down, you can grind him, or maybe you just club him over the head and knock him out. Don't know if I'm sold on his chin, his grappling abilities. Again, just a mid-level prospect at best. Marcin Prachnio, he's way lower than that. But if he's got anything, is that he's going to at least come hard and just throw wild bombs.
He just kind of charges forward. That's why we were on Sam Alvey. We kind of just saw it on tape. You just saw the Prachnio charges forward, and Sam Alvey waits for people to charge forward so he can land his straight left, and it kind of just fell right into place.
Yeah, and so with Prachnio, that's his issue, is that he's a Kyokushin karate guy. And I've just always been under the assumption that karate, about evading, the Stephen Thompsons of the world, the Lyoto Machidas of the world, the Gunnar Nelsons of the world. Kyokushin karate, different form of combat, right? That's actually what George St. Pierre specialized in when he was a kid. But for watching this tape of him competing at the worlds in Kyokushin, it's just literally stand in one spot and blast the guy to the body with straight punches. It's just wild man shit. And then in MMA, you watch his run in 1FC, it's just wild man shit. He comes at you, he swings bombs. He's real easy to take down too. He's real easy to control on the ground. But when he gets up, he just swings bombs. Mm-hmm. Could Mike Rodriguez intercept him and knock him out? Yeah. Could he take him down and dominate him on the ground? Yeah. Could he just tire him out and beat him at the later stage of the fight? For sure. But could he also get cracked by one of those Prachnio shots? Absolutely.
Yeah, minus 235. It's hard to trust.
Because it's easy to write off Prachnio as, what a fool. He charges straight into the fire and gets smoked. But see, he's charging in on straight-on guys that hold their ground. Sam Alvey, he's a ground holder. You move in on him, he's going to try to counter you with his left hand. Not only does he march in on Alvey, he marches down with his hands down twice. Gets caught twice, knocked out the second time. Now you give him Magomed Ankalaev. And this fight makes no sense because it's he's got no chance here. He really doesn't.
That wasn't fair.
No. And Ankalaev is so much better than him. He's like, I'm not even going to take him down. I'll just batter him standing, which he does. Drops him with a head kick, which it looks like he blocks, but he's had enough. He folds over. It's a bad move. Interesting is that going into the Ankalaev fight, he mentions, the Polish media is saying if I lose this fight, I'm going to get cut, and I feel so much pressure. And he was talking a lot about pressure. Loses that fight, and now has taken 2 years off. So should you bet him? Probably not. The move would be to take Mike Rodriguez. However, you don't know what he's been doing in that 2 years. You don't know if he's got his confidence back, and he's probably just going to go in there and chuck bombs. I got Rodriguez. I think this is an extremely dangerous play, and I think it's the time of thing. You look at 235, he's one of the bigger favorites on the card. So if you were making parlays, and you're looking to put some of these safer guys, 235 is
if you're
not
looking
a good
for
price
safe,
tag, man.
this
It's
card
50-50.
doesn't feel like the place to be looking.
Yeah, absolutely not. This represents a step down in competition from Ankalaev and Sam Alvey. So in that regard, maybe Prachnio's slightly more into it, right? And then as far as the Da Ung Jung fight goes, Rodriguez was the favorite there too. Not as big of a favorite, but he was the favorite there too. It's that, as I mentioned, Alvey stands his ground. Ankalaev stands his ground. Rodriguez backs right up. He backs right up. And when you're only going to run into so much space in the small apex, that once he runs straight up and he's up against the cage, and Prachnio bombs on him with a few shots, is he going to take him? Again, he only just been knocked out once, but it was his last fight. And it wasn't a tremendous blow that got him either. And he was all the way out. So, buyer beware, man. Again, very, very dangerous fight, I think.
Oh, buyer beware. That leads us right into this next one. We got Maria Agapova taking on Shayna Dobson. Agapova is a minus 1250 favorite. Dobson can be had for plus 800. Before we came on, Mayo was like, I think I'm going to go with the big random women's underdog.
Which has worked for people in the past.
Works in
but
some
I don't know
situations.
I don't know about
No,
it.
I'm not doing that.
You're
I'm
insane.
definitely playing the plus 7. I think it was...
Shayna Dobson got finished in the first round by ketchup beating the worst fighter in the UFC.
This year, Cody gave me the lock of the century in this women's fight, and I forget who it was. I think it was on one of the Scandinavian cards, and whoever the huge heavy favorite was is she can't lose. The other girl is just a complete scrub, and then just
this happens.
One round in, it's oh my god, this huge favorite sucks.
I'll give Dodson this. Her one chance to win is a knockout. It's a women's flyweight fight.
How much power are you generating from one singular punch?
I know, I agree.
You need 120 significant shots.
The girl is 3-4.
Knees and kicks.
She got finished in the first round by ketchup beating. She got
40
finished
seconds.
in 40 seconds. She got clubbed and pounded. She lost to Roxanne Modafferi, decision machine. Roxy, Done very well, very, very underrated, obviously. And that was kind of the beginning of
She had like
Roxy.
3 fights against.
That was like the beginning of
fights.
like Roxy's second part of her career, I would say, where she's obviously at a different level than what she was before. Reinvigoration. But she needs to get a knockout, and Agapova looks fine. I mean, this is a massive step down in competition from her last fight against Hannah Cifers. I think Hannah Cifers absolutely works Shayna Dobson. It's minus 1250 though. I see like the under 1.5 rounds in women's flyweight. I don't like betting those props. That's minus 160. Like, I guess Agapova probably gets a submission win here. Takes the fight to the ground, takes it out of danger early. For the one dangerous spot she could be is striking with Dobson, I suppose. But I mean, the books have moved this price to unplayable. It's a pass at minus 1250.
Yeah, Shocker. Yeah. Soft line opener 850. So it's like, who even puts this fight together? I give credit to the UFC. We got a 23-year-old prospect who we should not move along at a quick rate. She needs to develop. People are excited about her. Maybe she could be something, but you don't just give this person a top contender. In many ways, Hannah Cifers almost seems like on paper, like, damn, Hannah Cifers has fought some good competition. Hannah Cifers was looking good against Mackenzie Dern until she inexplicably decided to play the ground game with her. Yeah, she's a savvy veteran. She's strong, and Agapova just absolutely ran through her. When you see her on the Contender Series, that's her very green, very shy. Her also training in Kazakhstan, and I don't think she had branched out at that point. Now she's just training is all together. She's got good sponsors behind her. She's definitely developing. And yeah, I think the comparison from her last fight in the UFC is this looks like a young Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She just puts everything well together. There was a time where maybe you can exploit her.
Grappling.
Yeah. And then maybe that's why she's the next generation. Because again, she's only 23 years old, right? Joanna's in her mid-30s at this point, or getting to her near mid-30s. She's 33, 34? I think she's 34. Anyways. Imagine what this girl's going to look like when she's 30. She's going to look awesome, but you don't need to rush her there. So I give the UFC full credit for giving her an easy opponent. But I wonder, did they maybe give
Shayna
her...
Dobson knows where the bodies are buried.
Did they
like, how does she have a contract?
No, they're
Cody?
pissed off.
She's 0-3 in the UFC. Her only win is
Why
against
would you
Ariel
give her...
Beck, and that was because it was after the reality TV program.
I get a
And then she has like 2 random versus like 0-0 fighters as her other 2 wins. Like 3 and 4 has gotten absolutely mollywopped by low-level competition. Like, I mean, you could have brought in any other warm body, and I would just be like, oh, Agapova, big favorite in this spot. This one's kind of like, what does Shayna Dobson know about like Dana? She's got like pictures or something.
I don't know. I would almost give it credit to, she's 1-3 in the UFC. She's lost her last 3. The UFC gives out 4-fight deals, right? So she's come to the conclusion of a 4-fight deal where she's lost the last 3 fights of the deal. No doubt about it. She was released from her promotional contract. Problem is, Maria Agapova goes out and puts on a nice little clinic over Hannah Cifers, grabs the microphone, and calls out Shayna Dobson. Don't know why. But
did she call her out?
Yeah. Watch the
I
post
missed
fight
that
from her
part.
last fight. So her last fight, she's like, oh, I was supposed to fight Shayna Dobson. The fight fell through. I want that fight. And I remember tweeting out like, weak ass call out, man. Sweet performance, but like weak ass call out. Like, why would you want to fight Dobson? I think the UFC be like, is Dobson still under contract? It's like, no. So she'll take anything. Hey, we'll give you a 1-fight deal. Come in here. If you come in, I don't know. If you lose, even if you do look good, you're on a 4 fight.
$12,000.
It's $12,000, and the Reebok deal entitles you another 3. So here's $15,000. If you can get some local sponsorships to help you out along the way, good on you. But more than likely, you're making $15,000 here, which you have a 3-4 record. I don't know if she wants to continue fighting. I don't know what her deal is, but it seems like it's a big stylistical matchup. We're talking about too much. What it comes down to is you're going to take her inside the distance, obviously, because you're not playing at 1250 straight up. You're taking her inside the distance, and her last 3 wins show submission. And you mentioned it yourself. Probably just takes her down, submit her. I think TKO is totally on the table because she throws caution to the wind, big heat. And whereas brawling Cachoeira just landed a nice shot on Dobson, I think that maybe Agapova, there's a path to victory with the TKO as well. If you can just go inside the distance, great. But her straight up inside the distance, it's still going to be minus 500, minus 600. If you take her first round, if your book offers first round prop, I think maybe you even look at the under 1.5.
It was minus 160. I was looking at that.
Because she really does put it on, right? She goes for it, balls to the walls. And if you're this up-and-coming prospect that everybody's talking about, you're the hot shit, and UFC gives you a 3-4 opponent
called
that
out?
you asked for, there's no fucking around. You can go in there and you do what you got to do. And I feel like that's what she is going to do.
Free square on DraftKings.
Right. So I could not recommend you playing her
Unless you're
1250
Pat.
straight
Pat's
up.
playing Dobson.
I probably wouldn't play her on DraftKings. I probably would play the favorite on DraftKings. I'm just asking you, in the past, let's say 5 years in the UFC, in these like one-sided women's fights, how often do you, like, if you would just bet anything plus 500 or higher as the underdog, would you be up or down?
I think you'd be up. I agree in most scenarios with your train of thought there. Like plenty of these more green women in the division are not worth like laying minus 700, minus 800. There's holes in their game, so like
For sure.
so those holes create value on the other side. I feel like you're like knockout or bust with Shayna Dobson.
See, I find I hear where Pat's coming from. I find because I play the fool all the time and I make these stupid bets, but you have somebody who you just assume is going to outstrike the opponent and has the striking advantage, but you're getting screwed more often when it's like, God damn, I didn't realize her grappling was that bad. They're getting submitted by armbars from guard is obviously notorious, but it's like they're giving up takedowns. They're getting grinded. Dobson, you have to take that off the table.
Yeah,
right?
the armbar from guard
Armbar
probably
from guard's not
going
going to happen. In fact, I don't know that she takes down. I don't know
Not
that
on
she
that
can
side,
take
at
Agapova.
least.
Because of the height discrepancy, when she tries to clinch up, she loves to clinch up, by the way. When she clinches up, she's just going to get bombed by knees. If she does happen to get on top of the takedown, Agapova is just better submission threat. You know, I feel like the only path for Dobson is just club her with a big old shot over the top. But in Agapova, it's like she's lost just the one time to Tracy Cortez, who's a good wrestler and stronger and more mature and older. And like that one is like, okay, I see the path to victory. With Dobson's like, I just need to club her. Well, no one's done that. No one's really come close to doing that. I don't know that that's really a great path.
Is that her only path though?
Feels like it.
Unless she takes her down, which it's possible that she ends up on top, and for whatever reason, she just holds her down and Agapova does not do anything. I don't see it. I really don't. I don't. Dobson's strong. She's physical. She's a willing opponent, but she's just a warm body here, right? We can't mince words. It is what it is. And she's there to put a little shine in Agapova. How good is Agapova? Well, that's your choice to make. But how many people blew through Hannah Cybers and looked that good? Oh, geez, I guess not that many. Tracy Cortez, well, that's a credible loss. And she's won 3 fights since then. And she's looked good in those 3 fights. And she's fought decent
23.
competition. And Alexa Connors, Marilla Santos, those are good girls that she beat in the fall after that. 23. Training at a better facility now. Seems like things are going in the positive direction that Dobson ain't springing no upset. But because it's 1250, you run into Sean O'Malley syndrome where you just break your own fucking ankle. You can't discredit Vera. We talked about he was a game opponent and all that, but let's just be real here. It could happen to anybody at any time.
O'Malley's
you
ankles,
could just break your ankle.
O'Malley's weak ankles is definitely a thing.
Yeah, for
Happened
sure.
in the Sukumantath fight.
I
Same
don't
thing.
know that you can comfortably bet him in a lot of spots,
think so.
considering he's done it twice.
Yeah.
Once.
I mean, he
shit
almost.
happens.
It
Twice?
seems like he just has to stop throwing leg kicks because his feet are too fragile.
But that's how 1250s lose, right?
Yeah.
Is shit like that.
Banana peel
Yeah,
pricing.
banana peel pricing. You slipped on a banana peel and you knocked yourself out.
Quick props. Agapova by knockout is plus 120. Agapova by decision plus 155. Or
So you bet.
Dobson
I don't like any of them.
inside the distance 14-1.
Okay, so just bear with me
I
on
don't
this.
like any of them.
Bear with me on this. Bear with
I'm
me on
just
this.
staying away from this fight.
Bear with me on this. If you were to put $100 on Agapova by submission and $100 on Agapova by knockout, they're both plus money? Or do you think she wins a decision?
I don't.
You're just passing. That's fine. I'm saying you get plus money on both those
I
props.
would,
That's
I would
actually
do
not
the
bad.
submission. What was the submission price?
The submission was plus 155.
I'd do that.
And I had the
knockout.
I like the knockout prop, and you like the submission prop, but they're both plus money, is what I'm saying. So if you,
And I like a 14-1 winner, so I have the
enough.
best one.
fair enough. I think we can move on.
So yeah, let's move on. We've got Daniel Rodriguez taking on Takashi Sato. Rodriguez can be had for minus 185. Sato plus 160. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Rodriguez quickly developed into my boy. Like, it's not that he's doing anything spectacular. It's that he's kind of got skills everywhere. And he gets himself into trouble, but again, relying on those skills, he's able to get himself out of trouble. I can't really fault him for anything. Coming into the UFC, he had fought soft competition. I think that's the knock on him. And it's, well, how is he going to do when he fights better guys? And he's also billed as just a grappler. He's at a 10th planet jiu-jitsu, got some submission wins on his record. He's a little bit older. Let's see how he does against Tim Means in the UFC. And we sat here and we said, geez, Tim Means, one of those guys, untrustworthy, has blown some fights. In the first round, he hits Rodriguez with some nice shots. He puts it on Rodriguez, so to speak. Rodriguez got a good chin, never been knocked out, takes the shots, sticks with it. And at the end of the first round, absolutely nuclear bombs Tim Means, pretty much knocks him out. Fight's allowed to continue, but Tim Means ain't the same man in that second round. And then Rodriguez capitalizes. That's a nice little win here because up until this point, we didn't really know about his technical boxing. We didn't know about his striking. We knew he was a grappler. His wrestling's not great. So what's he going to do when he can't get the fight to the ground? Turns out he can strike a little bit. The follow-up performance against Gabe Green, I mean, listen, it was sloppy. It really was. It looked like he was tired in spots. It looked like he just has an unwillingness to even try to get the fight to the ground, which I didn't like. I mean, your best key is your jiu-jitsu. It's like, at least get the guy to the ground and, neutralize him. But instead, he just allowed himself to get into this war. But the numbers come out afterwards, and it's like 175 significant strikes landed on Gabe Green, plus a takedown. God damn, turns out Gabe Green could just take a hell of a punch. But again, he threw. And when the momentum in the round started to shift, he'd always fight his way back into it. It's like he was able to make adjustments. Takashi Sato, he seems way more one-dimensional. He is just a bruiser. He is capable of knocking you out. He has big power. But if you look at the guys he's fought in the UFC, guys that maybe have wilted a little bit, so to speak. Jason Witt, he's taking the fight on short notice. He's a 155-pounder. Ben Saunders, you can't tell me Ben Saunders has a good ability to take a punch. As far as his Japanese regional scene goes, a lot of softer competition. How is he going to fare in the UFC against better level guys if he's just a one-dimensional power puncher? And that's where I don't mind Green. I think Green has multiple advantages. He's going to throw more than Sato. He's cleaner with his boxing than Sato. And he does have a good ground game. The advantage with the ground game over Sato. Sato's just got to rely on clipping it, landing that big shot clean. And he allowed Gabe Green just to do whatever he wanted. He allowed him to have that firefight. Gabe Green lands some shots. Rodriguez took him. Rodriguez's game. I think Rodriguez takes what Sato gives and gives it back 2 to 3, at a clip of 2 to 3 to his significant strikes, just outpoints him. And if he does eventually hurt him, tire him out, maybe just get him to the ground, I think submission's a path to victory as well. So I got Rodriguez, minus 185. This is another mid-tier fight, right? Two guys outside of the top 20, maybe outside of the top 25 on a mid-level card. Is there a ton of confidence in it? No. But at 185, I think Rodriguez is some of the better value on this card.
Mizuki Inoue takes on Amanda Lemos. Minus 140. Inoue, Lemos, plus 120. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, this could easily be a big trap for old Cody because I have like this secret love affection with Mizuki Inoue. I mean, this is my girl. What does this girl do wrong? Maybe not the most physical one going out there, but she's just got infinite cardio and a good grappling game and a willingness to exchange. And she's already fought a lot of top competition. Now making her UFC debut, it seems like, why was she not in the UFC already? Maybe it's because of the size. I don't know. But she's only 26 years old. She's making improvements all the time. You look at her record, I mean, it's kind of a who's who for a young prospect. Coming back to, let's even just say since the get-go, right? UFC veterans Alex Chambers. Oh, yeah, by the way, she turned pro at 16. She made her professional debut in Japan at 16. She beat Alex Chambers when she was 18 years old. She beat Beck Rawlings when she was 20 years old. And then she lost a split decision to Karolina Kowalkiewicz 6 years ago, okay? Follows that up by losing to Alexa Grasso. These are all girls that went on to the UFC and went on to fight at a high level in the UFC, right? Ayaka Hamasaki in grappling matches. Lynn Alvarez, win over. Verna Jandiroba. This is 2018. It's 2 years ago. She loses a split decision and a 5-rounder. And I mean, good fight, man. And Verna takes her down. And Mizuki Inoue she's a great grappler. And she survives and she's able to reverse position. And she makes Verna work. And her striking's on point. And good fight. And now you see how good Verna is in the UFC. Wow, just lost her Sparza. That's no big deal. Runs through Felice Herrig this past weekend. This is a good prospect. This is someone who can grapple leagues above everybody, but not Inoue. And it's a 5-rounder.
The one thing that Lemos brings to the table, though, and what you were concerned about, is that strength, though.
Yes, yeah. And following that up, Vivian Pereira, once a time, a UFC contender of sorts. And then Yan Wu. Woo! That's her UFC debut. I didn't think she looked great in that UFC debut, but I just wonder if maybe she's got some kinks to work out. She needs to get her footing. And yeah, I agree. The The physicality is something that's always going to worry me. But you have someone who's the 26-year-old prospect who's fought a lot of good fighters, strong fighters, adequate grapplers, given up size in the past, and always given a good account of herself. Versus somebody in Amanda Lemos, 33, not an up-and-coming prospect as well, just someone who's hanging around, has 8 pro fights despite being 33, and then in the UFC is just 1-1, lost to Leslie Smith, got smoked out by Leslie Smith, who's infinitely bigger than Mizuki Inoue. I mean, my God, Leslie Smith fights at 145 sometimes, and that fight was at 135. The Melissa Granger fight is at 116. She drops 2 weight classes and looks way better. She has that strength. She has that physicality. But I just feel like the better fighter should win. Inoue is the better fighter. One simple thing, just being too strong, shouldn't win the way. And I see 145 or minus 140, and I'm so tempted. And I want to jump on Inoue, but I see this one as a potential red flag of sorts in that she didn't look great in her UFC debut. I gotta watch some more tape on Lemos just to see like what's the plan B for her, like what's the best path to exploit. And as far as that, I can't make like the joke of Japanese fighters haven't had great success in the UFC outside of Sato, I suppose, who won his last fight. But physicality is kind of something that they deal with. And they've got way better technique, superior technique, but a big, strong Brazilian bruiser might be able to have the way. Lemos kind of does fit that description. But you got to assume the better athlete, the superior skill set should win. It should win 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times. Minus 140, getting very tempting. I would like to pass on this, but it's a 10-fight card. We've talked about Menifield OSP. The fuck?
We don't have many bets.
Rodriguez versus Marcin Prachnio.
I look at this board this week.
You can't bet 1250 on Agapova.
I don't really love
Rodriguez Sato. It's like they're gonna bang it out there, man. Inoue Lemos. It's like could be a potential red flag, and we're gonna talk about the other red flags after this one. But it's a tough card, man. It definitely is a tough card.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say Agapova breaks her ankle midway through round 1 and she can't continue, and I bet fight doesn't go to the distance. Do I win?
Yes.
Does she actually get a loss for that, or is it like a no
If she
contest?
broke her ankle, and she would lose by injury.
Yeah, if you break your ankle, you lose by injury. The only way that you could get an
Unless-
out, the only way
yeah,
you
if
could
it was
get
like
an
an
out
eye
of it,
poke or something.
Yeah,
and
or
it was
there's
a no contest.
There's a head clash. But even then, if it's a no contest, I think you get a push if it's a no contest. But
Yeah, it would be a push. You
but
won't lose.
if it happens midway through the second round, you could argue to your bookie, at least depending on what the bookies, because listen, a lot of bookies have different rules on it, but you could argue the fight didn't physically complete 3 rounds. A lot of them, it's in the wording. Fight to complete 3 rounds and fight goes the distance are 2 different things, man. 2 different things. So technical decision.
Well, because one only completes 3 rounds and one actually goes to decision. But I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying. Same thing with technical decisions, and there's just all types of issues that you could potentially run into. But traditionally a no contest is you'll just get a push on it.
Joe Solecki takes on Austin Hubbard. Solecki minus 145, Hubbard plus 130. I mean, Hubbard made me look like a fool last time out. Who can forget?
You made up for it with that shoey, but he made you drink that shoey, pal. You should never forget that.
He made me have that dirty shoey, and I deserved it. I mean, Joe Solecki's gonna try to do what Max Roshkoff was trying to do before Max Roshkoff quit, which is try to get these takedowns and use superior top control and grappling control. And Solecki looked fine on Contender Series. Hubbard training out of that facility right now. Like I'm in no rush to fade him after I saw, he was able to stay out of trouble against a superior, at least collegiate wrestler.
Don't mince your words. You said he was the best guy of all time. And this guy just beat the best guy of all time.
He's the GOAT now. You actually have to bet Hubbard down. He's the GOAT.
I may. This is like the one. This is like the first spot on the card that I feel a little bit better about. I mean, I thought he looked fine. He was able to defend the takedowns, and then he really was able to ramp it up. He's got good cardio. Solecki has good cardio as well, from what we have seen. I think it's pretty 50-50. I prefer where Austin Hubbard has been spending his time training with the likes of Gaethje. He's at Elevation. I'll just go with the better camp at plus 130 if if you force me to. I haven't obviously bet it yet, but I'll wait to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Curtis Blades is a heavyweight, not getting rounds with him in. And Corey Sandhagen, maybe he's a bantamweight, you're not getting rounds him in. I'll tell you something. You put here this sandal in a room, that elevation, with Gaethje and Drew Dober, both at 155. That sandal's going to get infinitely better. Austin Hubbard is just the body in the room, man. And as a result, the kid has made a lot of improvements. His whole career has basically just been tough it out, you know? Take that early beating, tough it out. It's not just the fight with Max Roshkov. That's kind of how he fights. But that has just been playing key for him because even though he didn't win the fight with Marco Madsen, you saw the wheels in motion in that fight. He gets taken down 8 times in 12 attempts. So on one hand, you stuffed out 4 takedowns from an Olympian. On the other hand, 8 takedowns. Mark Madsen, people were raving about this guy's athletic ability, his strength. Oh my God, wait until you see this guy. An absolute specimen.
Which
Comes
is
in.
partially true.
Yeah, which is partially true. But
Until
Austin
round
Hubbard,
two.
Austin Hubbard made him look human because he's getting beauty takedowns. But geez, Hubbard just keeps getting back up. Holy crap. Max Roshkov, he's getting taken down. But he keeps getting back up. He's scrambling the whole time. And then you got to think, Jesus Christ, this kid hasn't had an easy run because rounds in the gym aside, he fights Davy Ramos as his UFC debut, loses, and lives to tell the tale. Davy Ramos, by the way, has only ever won 2 fights by decision because he usually puts you out if he's going to beat you. It's a feather in the cap, a losing effort, but a feather in the cap. Beats Kyle Prepelik, learning experience. Loses to Marco Madsen, but a second feather in the cap. Kid looked good, scrambled, made him work the whole time. Marco Madsen, they said this guy never got tired. They put him on the Aerodyne, and he's got the mask on, and they limit the oxygen, and it's like, wow, the guy keeps going, and he just wrestles for days. And Austin Hubbard is the fresher fighter in that fight.
Yep.
Now you look at Max Roshkov. Geez, the guy wrestled collegiately. He's a BJJ black
quit.
belt. Robert Drysdale is his head coach. He was living with Robert Folis, leading up to Robert Folis' death, actually. This kid has been like a prize prospect for a few years. People really like him. Onto the hype a little bit too much. But it's not even, he doesn't look, Austin Hubbard doesn't look good in the first round. He really doesn't. Doesn't let his hands go. The first half of the second round, he's really not letting his hands go. When you look at his fights, he kind of, that's one knock on him. Doesn't throw a ton of volume. The Kyle Prepelik fight's the same thing. He chews up his leg with the leg kicks. Doesn't really let his hands go a ton. But when he decides to on Max, everything's landing. And then you see, geez, you know what? He mixes it up. He's throwing 2-punch combos, 3-punch combos. He's throwing the hooks. He's throwing them from different angles, overhand, clean from a, kind of like a shuffle uppercut, so to speak. It's like he just puts it on him. He doesn't get tired. He just keeps coming. So I see Joe Solecki, and I think, Jesus, you know what? Solecki's got the same path that Marco Madsen successfully was able to use and that Max Roshkov wasn't able to use. And that's take this guy down. When you take him down, he's going to get back up. He's getting up against those guys. He's going to get up against
Take him back
Solecki.
down again and again.
Right, and that becomes a problem because Marco Madsen is a freak athlete that wrestled in the Olympics, and Max Roshkov is a former, he is a D1 All-American. I know he said he quit on some D1 tournament. Anyways, he had won like the ACA or something for...
The greatest Max Roshkov.
Yeah, Northern Carolina. Anyways, the guys wrestled collegiately.
I'm a recovering truther, okay?
And he's a black belt. Madsen's able to get, or Austin Hubbard's able to get away from the submissions. Davy Ramos is a black belt. Austin Hubbard gets away from the submissions. Joe Solecki's a black belt, but not as good as a black belt. And you know the difference between Roshkov and Madsen, who were both high-level wrestlers? Joe Solecki never wrestled. Just a guy that's been doing martial arts since he's 6, jiu-jitsu, learned how to wrestle a little bit. So then you look at his fights, right? He's on the Contender Series, and then he's got one fight in the UFC. And it's not one time does he take you down on like a clean takedown. It's a caught kick. He catches a kick and takes you down. Turns out Austin Hubbard barely even throws kicks. Barely throws kicks. And even if you do take him down, he just kind of gets back up. So Solecki's going to have to stand and strike with this guy. And even though his striking is improving, it's loopy and it's wild, and he's not there to exchange for 5 minutes per round. And eventually he's going to start to get taxed. He's going to start to get tired. And that's going to be his undoing. His fight with James Wallace on the Contender Series, quick guillotine. So tight, looks good. First round. His fight with Matt Wyman. Now, take in consideration, this is the ghost of Matt Wyman. This is Matt Wyman. What the hell happened
We
to
all
Matt
thought
Wyman?
he was already dead.
Right. And it's a decision, right? Crazy that Matt Wyman was able to survive. But there's a moment midway through the second round where they both stand up and Solecki is spent. He's done. And I think, holy shit, Matt Wyman's got a shot. And Matt Wyman's even more spent. That was a good matchup for him because Matt Wyman had nothing to show. Now, when that happens in this fight, and why not look to bet Hubbard live after the first round? I think I'm going to bet him beforehand too. He's the underdog.
I'm going to bet him as soon as we get off.
Yeah,
As soon as
yeah.
Pat's probably already betting
Is
them.
that I see Solecki probably getting some takedowns early in the first round, but he's going to have to work for all of them. And working for takedowns just zaps your cardio
This
instantly.
guy training in Denver with Gaethje and Dober. Those
Just
guys
doesn't
are
get
just looking better and better.
Yeah.
Cardio is not, I mean, I guess you can say Curtis Blades heavyweight.
His cardio is sick.
Round
His-
5
his
against
cardio
Volkov.
is sick.
He was tired. He was tired coming
He's
off of a COVID
200.
break.
It's
Oh, I know. I'm
Volkov.
saying that's like the one scenario that you're like, a guy from this gym doesn't have doesn't have the cardio to hold up.
Do you think it's Hubbard by decision?
Probably.
That's
Oh,
But
okay,
he has been able
okay.
to finish guys.
Patrick, my man, thank you for bringing that excellent point up. So yeah, one would assume Hubbard, because he just doesn't throw enough, he takes them deeper waters. You look at Hubbard's record as well, riddled with decisions. Yes, he knocks out your boy, riddled with decisions. Easy to assume.
He didn't even knock out my
Easy
boy.
to assume.
My boy quit.
That's true.
No, there is a chance that in that last fight, just to screw Paul, it unfolded like that Mankind Rock match, the I Quit match from the Royal Rumble, where they had the pre-taped of Mankind saying I quit. So maybe it didn't even really happen, Paul, is all I'm saying. That's my greasy
that'll
theory.
help me sleep at night.
Right. So you did a little digging for us all because you can't find the fight. I wish you could, but you just can't find the fight. Prior to Contender Series, right, the James Wallace, Joe Solecki does an interview, right? Joe Solecki says, you know what? Going into this Contender, it's actually after he beats James Wallace. He says, I didn't think I should have been there. I didn't think I was ready for Contender Series. And I didn't think I'm ready for the UFC. And I didn't think my performance is that good. And I don't feel ready. Like, I'm only 7-2, he says. I'm only 7-2. His words. I'm only 7-2. And I just got knocked out a few fights back. So I look into that fight. Nicholas Mata was on Ultimate Fighter, not very notable. Has done okay since then. And by all accounts, Solecki's up 2 rounds and gets knocked out minute 8 into the 3rd round. He gets tired. He gets hittable. He makes a mistake.
So be careful
He gets
about
capitalized.
the decision.
So I'm thinking along Pat's lines. I kind of got Hubbard by decision as well. Do you know what? Hubbard is going to take him into deep waters, and he is going to tune off on him. And then it's whether Solecki's able to get reaction takedowns to slow down the pace, and he's able to grit out a tough 3rd round. But I think you're going to be biting your nails if you got Hubbard by decision. Whereas if you just take Hubbard straight up by plus 120, probably have a better feel about it.
All right, we have,
Yeah, it's not all that big of a discrepancy. Like you can bet Hubbard to win at plus 130. Like the inside the distance is only plus 185. If you took Hubbard
130,
by
yeah.
TKO or submission, it's like 7-1.
yeah, he's a decision machine. Usually the props are going to fall that way with a guy with Austin Hubbard. He only gets finishes when, future title contenders that I mushed the shit out of ended up quitting.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. I think we like Hubbard here. We're not sure about the decision or the TKO. I feel like we're leaning towards the decision, but
Right.
I mean, if
I
Solecki,
agree.
I imagine Solecki from that one loss that he was talking about earlier on in his career, I'm
He
sure he's
learned,
put in
for
extra time to be able to go 3 rounds at this point. All right, are you ready for Ike Villanueva Chalk Week on DraftKings this week?
I got a line on this, by the way.
Oh,
there's a
did
line.
you?
I had NA.
He hit a
on this.
refresh.
What is this line? So it's Ike Villanueva taking on Jordan, the Beverly Hills Ninja.
Okay, I don't have a line.
Yeah, I
on
was
this.
going to say.
I thought he was fighting Jorge Gonzalez.
No.
Which is a very close line.
I was gonna bet Gonzalez in that spot, so maybe we got lucky by if he was injured or something being pulled out. Maybe I avoided a little bit of a trap there. Jordan, the Beverly Hills Ninja, 10-0 on his record. Do not be fooled. This guy got absolutely starched round 1 on the Contender Series against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who I believe tested positive for pot. Was it pot?
Yeah.
Test positive for pot, turned that into a no contest. Fluffy has went on to being
A fluffer.
being very, very mediocre in the UFC. Kevin Holland absolutely laid the smackdown on him in
His last outing. Yeah.
outing. This Jordan Wright guy is on a different level. I know it's been a long time since I said this. Jordan Wright is the worst fighter in the UFC. Ooh, I felt good. There's been so
Has
many
been
of
a
these
while.
dusty cards and stuff. This guy, unless he's made crazy improvements from, I remember when we were watching you're just like, oh, 10-0, okay, Beverly Hills Ninja, oh, fighting
Yeah,
California.
combined
Oh.
record of his opponents.
Let's see. And then you look at like his record, you're like, oh, this isn't shaking out. And they show the little preamble video of like him like hitting mitts or whatever he's doing. I'm like, this guy is horrible. And yeah, 40 seconds absolutely starts by like Hernandez is not UFC level competition, or at least, is not quality UFC level competition. And like he looked like he had no place being in there against him. So I imagine he trains with somebody who's here this week, just happened to be around. Jorge Gonzalez drops out. They go, will you fight anybody? And he goes, yes. So Beverly Hills Ninja is in the house. Ike Villanueva, watching him on tape leading up to his previous fight, faded him last time out. Not impressed by him either, but anybody against Jordan Wright.
Yeah, well, you know what? I couldn't fault you then that Jordan Wright.
But I don't know the odds. If it's like minus
give-
800, it's just like, okay, well, no, we stay away altogether.
Yeah. Oh, I'd like to see a line as well because I'd be tempted to bet Jordan
Set
Wright.
a line.
I'd have to say it.
What do you think it's going to be, Cody?
Minus 300.
Ike Villanueva? No. It'll be minus 235 Ike Villanueva. Which
side's the value?
Listen, I'm saying right because you got another 50-50 fight here and that both guys can't take a great shot. Not only we talked about OSP dropping back down and all this. Ike Villanueva's fought at middleweight. He's fought at light heavyweight. And he's just coming off a fight in the UFC against Chase Sherman at heavyweight. Jeez, this is big. Now he's back down to light heavyweight. And Jordan Wright's never fought at light heavyweight. He's a fucking middleweight. So not only do all of those problems that you talked about apply here, it's like he's up shit's creek, man. But he's way faster than Ike Villanueva. And he can actually bang. It's whether you touch his chin before he's able to touch yours. He's an absolute can crusher, as Paul alluded to. Literally his run, his first few fights, listen, when you're 0-0, it seems okay to fight guys that are 0-0, but these guys never amounted to anything. They either never fought again or they just lost a few fights and then retired. 0-0, 0-0, 0-5, 0-0, 0-21, if you can fucking believe that one. 0-10, 0-0. Shit, you know what? Even though I just choked out that 0-0 guy in 132, I'll fucking rematch his ass. Beat him again in Alaska, of all places. Picks up a quick win over Craig Wilkerson, who had a good-looking record, but again, not very good. And then the Anthony Hernandez fight. He's smoked in 40 seconds. Not only that, it's a scary KO, boy. He is out. Out. This guy's got no upside. There's nothing to it. But then he fights Gabriel Checo in LFA. Middleweight, this is where he should be. And, man, he's a career karate guy. That's why he's the Beverly Hills Ninja. He's 28, so he's a year younger than me. I grew up fucking idolizing that movie. Chris Farley. Haru! It was a great movie. There's no doubt about it. He's doing karate. He's a kid. He sees the movie. It's an inspiration to him. Ha, the name sticks. And he's more of a karate guy. As we talked about our old buddy, Marcin Prachnio being Kyokushin karate, this guy wants to evade. He wants to stay on the outside. He happens to walk right into a big shot from Fluffy, and it knocks him out. But against Checo, he does a better job of managing the distance and using his kicks. And that's one problem with Ike Villanueva. He's kind of slow. So he's got a boxing advantage. If he hits Jordan Wright, probably knocks Jordan Wright out. He's the bigger man. You got a guy that just fought at heavyweight against a guy that just fought at middleweight. Yeah. Stars are aligning that Ike Villanueva is deservedly so the favorite. Probably catches this guy, knocks him out. But here's one problem with Ike. Ike has absolutely zero cardio. Just doesn't happen, right? The guys he's beating on the regional scene, they're all first-round knockouts. In fact, prior to signing with the UFC, his 4-fight winning streak, the longest fight in that 4-fight winning streak is 3 minutes, right? Against Chase Sherman, he starts out okay for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then it's just a big drop-off. You can blame heavyweight, but he didn't cut any weight for the fight, and it wasn't a grappling match. So, I don't know. And he gasses out a light heavyweight to begin with.
I bet Chase Sherman was big up on Chase Sherman, and think about the history I have with Chase Sherman. He's a guy who I used to say was the worst.
Right. And Chase
I picked
Sherman,
him against Ike.
If Chase Sherman has any good
Because he's a
quality,
heavyweight.
yeah, but if he has any good qualities, that he's a mobile heavyweight,
Yeah.
and he looked to be infinitely faster than Ike Villanueva, plain and
Had
simple.
better cardio,
Way
infinitely
faster.
faster, hit harder.
Jordan
everything.
Wright is going to be way faster than him.
Okay.
So when I say it's a battle of who's going to get their shots off first, Wright's going to get his shots off first. Can Ike take them, return fire, and knock Wright out? Incredibly possible. But if you're gonna if you did cap it at 235, Ike Villanueva, and you gave me a comeback of 165, 175 on Wright,
It's a lot of vig.
Well, I'm just saying he'd be the money
It'd
side.
be plus 195 if it was minus 235 on the other side.
Well,
Cody's running a real crooked book
He's got a
there,
crooked
taking
book
all
on
the
the
vig.
go.
yeah. I'm saying is that the money side would be on Wright because I got this cap closer to a shitstorm of a fight
Hold
that
on.
could go either way.
If this, let's say it is, let's say even say.
Can we just bet the under in this?
Yeah, bet the under. In this. If you're gonna
What's
bet
the under, like 1.5 rounds?
Well, there's no line on the fight. We just got
true.
showed.
Yeah. Paul's running a crooked book over here.
Yeah, but Paul's just looking for. I'll give you.
I'm looking for lines that don't bad. Tell me the props.
man.
Give me the props.
But like,
man.
if you're gonna bet this right guy, you just bet him like first round knockout, don't you?
I
Get,
don't
like,
know.
Double whatever his odds are.
I'm gonna let every other people's bankrolls touch Jordan Wright.
The way that you describe this guy, he doesn't sound like Haru, the white ninja, or his brother Liu Kang. He sounds like fucking Chris Rock, who's getting the lessons from later on.
He's not
I'll
fat.
have you know, Chris Rock has a tangerine belt in that movie, okay? So he had a base coming in. And listen, once you train at that level, which by the way, Jordan Wright trains at Greg Jackson's, he's only 28 years old. Like Villanueva is over the hill, pal. Now, there was a legitimate argument that Jordan Wright never got near the fucking hill. But yeah, same. He's got youth, speed, athleticism. He hits hard. And the Gabriel Checo fight, coming off a knockout loss, he just fought smart. And I think almost, you know what, Dana's here. Oh, I got a contract. I fought in fucking nobody to this point. And I could get a contract in the UFC. Undefeated. I like when guys lose. Problem is, I like when guys lose
And they
like Menifield. He got 3 rounds of gut check. That's a lot of experience. That's a lot to take away. I'm all for that.
Fluffy Hernandez. In
Right? Don't
40
remember.
Seconds.
He don't remember anything past the oh shit, staying away because it's all a fucking blur after that. He just got absolutely starched out of there. But I think he took the right approach against Gabriel Checo, who's a BJJ specialist, wants to take him down. He took him down and he played in his guard. So why not go against Ike? Just take him down in the first round. Just hold him down and do nothing in the first round. In the second round, Ike will be tired. And then use your karate, stay to the outside, get those shots off on him, take him out. Maybe it does go over 1.5, but I think consensus is under 1.5. And I'm leaning towards Wright, but I want a good dog price.
We'll talk about it in a second, but like on DraftKings, this is the D-Gen kind of fight that you end up wanting to have the winner because one of these guys, I mean, Ike Villanueva is 8,200. I imagine Jordan Wright is going to be at like 8,000 or less, basically.
Like 8,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, just again,
it'll end up being if in GPPs, it's that greasy fight that you end up having a piece of, and you hope for the best. It's a 6 fight parlay, right?
Okay.
Basically, so
My last thing I want to throw in, just so I make sure I get all my tidbits out, is that the Chase Sherman versus Ike Villanueva fight. Sherman goes 11 for 15 with the kicks. He just literally sat back and just kicked him, and Ike just let it happen. And I honestly think that Jordan Wright could do that. He ain't Chase Sherman.
good
Let's
leg
get that.
kicker.
Yeah, he's the karate guy, man. This is what they do. Stay to the outside kick. Stay to the outside kick. He moves forward, dance around him. Ike's just too slow. Ike's going to have to cut off the ring and land that big shot. Both possible. But give me dog price on Wright. I'll take the dog price.
Oh god.
It's a shit card, Paul. You got to pick your spots and just get going, baby. It's
I'm gonna
greasy.
have Jordan Wright on a DraftKings lineup this week. What is the world?
If you play
coming to?
multiple
Or so
lineups,
you can
maybe
just
take
make the
both.
same team twice and just interchange them out because they're going to be around the same price. Just
They-
fill
they probably
the 5
will,
people
yeah.
you like, and then these two on 2 separate teams.
Yeah,
Wright will
one of
be-
these two idiots, make 2 lineups and split the difference. Carlson minus takes on Matthew Semelsberger. Minus 125. Semelsberger plus 105. What can you tell me about these guys?
Yeah, honestly, this is the one fight on the card. I'll admit, I gotta definitely have multiple more looks at it. It's a contender series fight that didn't have a spot on a contender series card, and hey, geez, only 9 fights on this card. We need to throw something on there. Let's throw them on here. I just don't think that either guy's technically really UFC level. Not that that is even a real thing right now, but it's hard to get a good gauge on it. Carlson minus would be my favorite as well. I know he's slight minus 125, so book tends to agree. He's got the better body of work, but he also just seems to be a little bit faster, a little bit crisper, a little more flush with his shots, so to speak. I see this probably being striker versus striker, and that he just lands the better shots ever so slightly. When you look at some of the guys he's beaten, he's one of these Alaska FC guys, and I know I've heard all the jokes in the world about Alaska FC. There's some good guys that have legitimately came out of there that go on. They're raw, but they're good talent. They go on beyond that. But you have to fight a better level of competition. This guy does the same thing as everybody else does. He fights that lower level, but he takes a good step up within Alaska. It's fine. Colin Reuter's a decent talent, not a great talent, decent talent, mid-level type guy, has fought in Hawaii, has fought for various okay organizations, but it's the follow-up fight over Justin Buckles, who is obviously a UFC veteran and, was at the time one of the coaches at Team Alpha Male. It's a good win over him. Then he gets a PFL shot, right? Because, hey, PFL needs guys for the tournament, $1 million tournament. Let's bring this guy in. He's 9-0, he has a nice looking record. He's quick, he's athletic, he's coming over a win over Justin Buckles. Makes sense. And now, as an undefeated prospect, leaving Alaska for the first time, you draw Rick's story in like a pristine fight on TV, like couldn't deal with the wrestling, couldn't deal with the submissions, wasn't ready, very clearly not ready. Since then, he did pick up a win back in Alaska FC. You can watch it on Fight Pass. But it's like, when he fights high-end guys, they got to be washed. Buckles is washed at the time, and he's quicker than them. And again, I think he's got the better punches. He's a little sharper with his technical boxing. He's a little bit faster. He has a little bit more output. But beyond that, it's just like he's a very unproven commodity that could easily get dragged into this war with this Matthew Semelsberger guy who has fought lesser competition, but with wins over in CFFC, which is a far better organization than Alaskan FC. And also he knocked out Richard Petishnock his last time out. Petishnock, obviously from World Series of Fighting fame, beat a couple Gracies back in the day. It's like, you know what? He's a live dog too. I mean, he's young enough. He's going to come in here. He's going to throw hands. He's 27, whereas I don't think he has the same output, and I don't think he has the clean technical boxing, is that he does have a power advantage. So I do think he'll be able to hit Carlson minus, but I also think Minus is just going to hit him in return and maybe a few more times, and maybe that's going to be enough to grease out a decision. It's minus 125 plus 105, pretty close, pretty near even. I think, again, the smart move would be to pass. But from what I've seen, which is a limited amount at this point, I had Carlson Minus as having a slight technique advantage, a slight competition advantage, and in this short notice situation, I feel like it would prefer him.
We have Timur Valiev getting his UFC fight, taking on Mark Striegl. Valiev minus 525, Striegl plus 415. Any value to be had here?
Yeah, somebody done fucked up. If I'm Valiev, I'm like, how are we before Carlson Minus versus Matthew Semelsberger? Like, that has to be the curtain jerker. Timur Valiev at some point was a somebody, man. He was a world champion.
Maybe he's got to fight. He's got to get out of town. He was supposed to be...
I'm hoping that the bout order changes at some point, because not only do you have Timur Valiev, who's the former World Series of Fighting champion, who was in the PFL tournament, never even lost in the PFL tournament, Dagestani guy, great striking. If he does get taken down, just great scrambling ability.
You know what? It probably is.
Prospect.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's probably because
he
I think it's a
withdrew?
5-fight main card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5-fight main card. 1, 2, 3, 4 prelims. Just to try to sell you those fight pass.
That's a good point.
It's the hardcores want to see Timur Valiev.
Yeah,
They want to see the World Series of Fighting champion fight in the UFC. Pat's never heard of Timur Valiev. He switched the show for us where we talked about Timur Valiev. He still doesn't remember who Timur Valiev is.
Yeah, dude, I
It's to sell subscriptions.
That's actually a really good point.
That's probably what happened.
No, it's a good point, because not only do you want to see Timur Valiev, if you are a Russian fight fan, or you watch World Series of Fighting, or you are actually, even a hardcore fight fan to know who Valiev is, you'll want to watch it. But if you are a South Asian fight fan, or you're a real hardcore fight fan like myself, you want to see Mark Striegl fight. This guy's been around a long time, man. There's always been the idea that he could compete in the UFC, but the Reese McLaren fight just blew that shit right off the rails. To put things in perspective, he's been fighting pro since 2009. The guy, despite being Filipino descent, is a good wrestler, man. And he's got good grappling. His striking, let's not even talk about that right now. Not very good. But, man, he gets you to the ground and he submits you. Problem is, when you're fighting South Asian talent, a lot of them just don't have the takedown defense to pose a whole lot of resistance. So Mark the Strangler Striegl, he gets these guys down and he submits them. That's what he does. He takes on the best guys available, but he just blows right through them. He was a massive signing for ONE FC. ONE FC, they launch, we got Striegl. He's a PXC champion. He's a URCC champion. Those are the big organizations in that part of the world. Mm-hmm. It's a no-brainer to bring this guy in. Comes in, wins his first fight, first-round submission, looks good, and it's the Reese McLaren fight. So this is why I draw a lot of comparison to the Reese McLaren fight. Reese is not the most talented guy going, Australian guy, but he's wily and he's tricky. He's the Dickie Eklund of the MMA world. He can take a beating, he can rope a dope a little bit, he just kind of stays around a little too long. Striegl kind of has a good start against him, starts off well against him, but Reese McLaren just hangs around, durable, hangs around. Then all of a sudden, Striegl starts getting tired. And you didn't really see this aspect of Striegl's game. He starts getting tired. Reese McLaren breaks him down and ends up submitting him at the tail end of the third round. Since then, that fight's at 135 pounds. Since then, he's competed 5 times. All 5 of those fights at 145 pounds. He's coming in here making his UFC debut, somewhat of short notice, at 135 pounds. That becomes a problem because if you take Timur Valiev down, he scrambles and he gets back up. And it wears you out and it tires you out. And he always moves forward. And he's a pressure fighter. And once Striegl's game plan of taking him down and holding him down does not work, he's just going to be taking some open shots from Valiev in the open space up against the cage. Valiev probably just hustles him up. 525 is a really bad price tag, only because Striegl just falls on this guy's back, puts a body triangle, wins the first round. Second round, we seen similar with Cody Durden, right, against Chris Gutierrez. Funny I bring that up because Chris Gutierrez had pulled off that massive upset once upon a time with Valiev. But Cody Durden is just like, dude, he just fucking ended up on his back with a body triangle. Held him. Got a 10-8 first round. Lost the second. Lost the third. Part of me didn't give a shit because I got a push. Part of me did give a shit because I had Gutierrez by decision. And that's not a push. Because you bet him specifically by decision and it was a draw, you fucking lose. Yeah. So, pissed off. But that's kind of what happens in MMA when you give up these grappling advantages. Valiev, Dagestani fighter, not a wrestler, right? He grew up throwing hands, throwing kicks, learning the striking arts. Those guys learn to absolutely just maul you from a ground position. But training at that level, training with those guys, training with elite level fighters. I believe he also just spends time with Frank Edgar on the card, headlining it. He's going to be in good shape. He's going to be ready to go. And Striegl, as much as Striegl once upon a time was a prospect, he's 32 years old now. He hasn't fought anybody to the level of UFC competition. Technically, his last fight is over a UFC veteran. 32, 22, 11. One of those Shimizu, who was used on a Japanese card once upon a time. But, and it's a no contest due to low blows. And that's a year and a half ago.
What was the name there?
Shunichi Shimizu.
Okay.
And I
thought you just made something up.
No, fuck no. You don't remember him? You fought in the UFC. You fought, I want to say...
Barely.
Buddy from the Northern Ireland. No, okay, sorry.
I got you off track.
He had one fight in the UFC Fight Night 34 back in 2014. So weird I don't remember that. Against Mr. Perfect, Kung Ho Kang. Everyone likes Mr. Perfect.
Where is Mr. I guess he's probably...
Wow, he doesn't fight that often.
At home.
When he does fight, though, guy can fight. And then, he's fighting a pile of good guys. He just loses, right? It is what it is. Since that low blow, right? He's actually... he beat Ashkan Mokhtarian.
We can take a lot away from that.
He was 32, 22, and 11, and he beat your boy, Ashkan. And then he dropped his next 4 fights after that. But the point is that he's fought 5 times.
Trashcan's in jail for selling Molly, I think.
Is that him or his brother?
I think it was Trashcan.
Well, tough times. I'm saying is that Striegl just doesn't compete enough. He doesn't compete as a high level enough. And I honestly do think him coming back down to 135 will be his unraveling. Probably has a good first round, and outside of that loses. So, as we talked about in the main event, I think you look at betting value on a live bet standpoint. You bet him beforehand.
You think Striegl comes out hot?
I think. Yeah. Well, okay.
Comes out hot.
Yeah.
Valiev, you get a better price than minus 500.
Striegl wants to grapple. He doesn't want to stand and bang with him. He's worked a lot on his striking, but you don't want to stand and bang with Valiev, who's a constant pressure fighter, right? So at some point, he's going to look to get the fight to the ground. If he goes out that in the first round, he shoots it and he gets stuffed, he's pretty much done. If he goes out there and he gets the takedown, holds him down, maybe he grapples him, maybe holds on to him, and wins the first round. Now people are going to be like, Value's not that great of a grappler. He just lost the first round. Now you get a much better price. And then what happens is Striegl's going to get tired. I honestly think the Reese McLaren fight, once upon a time, you can say, oh, dude, it's 3-4 years ago. That was him in his prime. He's not in his prime anymore.
I always love it when you say, like, oh, the guy's 32 years old. Over the hill, dust.
I know what you're saying.
As a guy who's older than that, I'm always like, oh, I wonder what Cody thinks about me.
This is why I say things like that, right? Because there was a time, Mark Striegl, he beat Kai Kara France, right? Kai Kara France is 21 years old, and this kid's 26, right? Now you see Kai Kara France compete 10 times since then.
Yeah, still struggled with grappling.
You're right. Well, exactly. That's how Striegl beat him. But you make improvements, you compete, you get better. Now you're a legitimate prospect in the UFC. I think when you're okay with being the big fish in a small pond, which is what he has been for a long time, he has such a significant grappling advantage over a lot of the guys he fights. He doesn't get himself into trouble.
Bibiano. When Bibiano was at ONE FC, it's just like, he dominated a bunch of guys. But if he came over to the UFC and took on the top of
he really would be. He would be.
I remember
He doesn't
certain
make
guys
it-
that we used to work with would be like, Bibiano's the best bantamweight in the world.
I still hear people say that. They're like, dude, look at his win streak. It's like, have you
One,
no
he's
idea.
actually like he would be so much smaller than the other 135.
He's real
pounders.
strong and he's good.
He's very
black belt, but
strong,
His
but
cardio's shot. He's 40
He's a
now.
125 pounder in terms
Yeah,
of his
he's
frame.
a small guy.
I mean, yeah, all the top
Fucking
guys.
legend. Let's give him that.
Benjamin
but-
Sterling would dance circles around him. Sandhagen would absolutely smack him around.
Oh, he
Like,
wouldn't last a round and a half with Peter Yan. No way.
He doesn't have the power to knock out Garbrandt. Like Garbrandt would spunk him.
Is Timur going to win by decision or like finish him?
I think he says that if Striegl gets really, really tired, he's worried about the
yeah.
late finish.
I would.
The late finish, if you want Timur,
Round three?
plus 225 just by TKO, KO, DQ, or submission.
I like it. The only one thing that would throw potential wrench in that is you've got a guy in Valiev who's a striker, wants to hit you, wants to knock you out. Striegl's done this. We talked about the Reese McLaren fight, but he's got 2 pro losses. Both of them are by submission. The one with McLaren was 3:33 into the third round. The other one was 4 minutes and 13 seconds into the third round. Both times he gave up the submission with a minute and a half or a minute left because he was tired.
Valiev round 3, what's that?
If he gets tired in the third round and Valiev's not trying to submit him,
Valiev round 3,
Valiev's just hitting
14 to
him.
1.
14-1.
Holy shit.
I mean, those round 3 props are always like that.
Well, you know what? That's where
That's worth a
that's where the
poke.
sniff at the very least.
Just a little taste.
You parlay round
little-
3, Timur with my girl
Now we're talking
Dobson,
parlays.
and boom. You
Get
make
after
like
it.
1,000 to 1.
Get after it, bud.
with Dobson round 1.
One thing before we get into DK and we talk
Pat
about
is going to be on a yacht if that comes through.
yeah, holy shit, would you ever? Is that it is crazy to think 10 fight card, the Austin Hubbard pick.
Was like
Doesn't-
our favorite. Austin
doesn't that
Hubbard is
feel-
our favorite bet
Doesn't
of the
that
week.
feel
That's
a lot
nuts.
better than Timur Valiev, who's minus 525?
Yeah, of
Ike
course.
Villanueva, geez, what I don't know what he's gonna be. You don't want no part of Carlson minus. The Inoue fight, I do feel like I'm gonna get trapped in there. Daniel Rodriguez 185. It's like this is gonna be a banger. Agapova is not even bettable. Mike Rodriguez 235. Come on, man, don't even disrespect that. That's just a whack price. Let's be real. Menifield, Aubin, Preux. We're not even on the same side of that one because it's a
I don't
greasy ass
wanna
fight.
bet
It's a
OSP
greasy ass fight.
either, though, 'cause
And then your Frankie Edgar's a plus.
I would prefer,
215.
honestly, if I'm really going to think about it,
Not
I would
a
prefer
great
to
card.
watch. I would prefer if I was going to bet OSP, I would wait until first round. Make sure that we don't get flatlined.
Sounds like a good week to do something else on
'Cause
Saturday night.
I mean, I'm actually going to be away.
Yeah. Listen, I have not liked cards in the past, and shit just fell into place, right? And I'm hoping that's what it is because
I'll
it's
tune in
this
if-
is real low level.
If I'm close to a computer, but I'm going to be at like a friend's cottage, so I may actually end up just watching these on Sunday when I get home.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun.
Straight
all right.
up, Timur Valiev versus Striegl would make a Bellator main card. Carlson minus versus Matthew Semelsberger, it wouldn't. Ike Villanueva versus Jordan Wright, it wouldn't. Joe Solecki versus Austin Hubbard, it wouldn't. Mizuki
that
Inoue
would.
versus Amanda Lemos, it would because they love promoting women fights, and this is a really good fight, by the way. Daniel Rodriguez versus Takashi Sato, have to be a shitty Bellator card. Marina Agapova
That is
versus
a
Shayna
like
Dobson.
that's a Bellator prospect fight right there. If I've ever seen one, Agapova versus Dodson.
Yeah, that and it actually seems like a Bellator matchmaking do, where
Mm-hmm.
it's just like throw the warm body. It's just like she has a name, damn it. Mike Rodriguez versus Marcin Prachnio. Prachnio's 0-2 in the UFC. Mike Rodriguez just got knocked down in 40 seconds. Lonzo Menifield versus OSP. Yeah, for sure. People want to see that fight. I get it. Munhoz versus Frankie. All the respect in the world. Great fight. Great athletes. Top-notch guys. Is Frankie a little over the hill? He's got a lot to prove on Saturday. But what I'm saying is this card wouldn't even be like great by Bellator standards.
And then with DraftKings too, it makes it even more difficult with 10 trying to differentiate yourself from the rest of the competition.
Yeah, and
Pat,
something's going to fall off before this happens.
Yeah,
what
it-
DraftKings questions do
Guaranteed.
you have this week?
Guaranteed.
Well, the only thing I want to point out, so like based on what you guys have said and what I've kind of circled on my page here, it seems like Agapova at 93, just play her.
Yeah.
And from like the odds versus the pricing, it does seem like this Matthew Semelsberger is like the best like odds value on the board. Like
It does.
He's like even money and he's $7,700 bucks.
I think that opened at like like plus 130 too. Money's been coming in on Semelsberger. Maybe people are wise to things, but we've seen
It's
I
a
mean,
50-50 fight, so why would
there's
you
not
not just
many
take
people.
the dog?
I don't even think it would be like that many. I don't think there's much action whatsoever coming in on that fight. So maybe like one tout service puts out Semelsberger as a pick, and the amount of people who pile onto it, they're like, oh, wait a second. We're only taking action on one side here.
So, yeah, this is kind of strange. So, yeah, that actually kind of happened. When it opened, it was plus 255.
That's a crazy, crazy.
So it was a soft
then
opener.
Then it was plus 200 for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And then it dropped to plus 130, and now it's even money.
Yeah, I saw that plus like 130, 140 or something earlier in the week, and I was just like, "Who are these guys?"
I'd hit a hard pass on this one, but I do have
there's
minus
been
on the PLP.
Massive steam coming in on Semelsberger for whatever reason. DraftKings. I mean, Agapova, I'll end up playing her.
This Hubbard guy doesn't sound like he's gonna score anything.
No, he's not exactly a DraftKings scorer.
Like if this Hubbard guy actually like sucks, which would be against what you guys said, it sounds like this guy that he's fighting just gets a ton of takedowns if he like does everything right.
Yeah.
Well, again, the guys that have been taking Hubbard down are elite
Much
level
better
wrestlers, and Joe Solecki is not. So it's entirely possible that and again, watch his last 2 fights. He's not shooting single legs. He's not shooting double legs. Right. I guess I'm talking to the fans. If you're not sold on it, is that he catches kicks and just pushes you forward, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's on top. Once he's on top, he's a slick grappler. He's a BJJ black belt. He's been training for, I think he's 26. He said he started when he's 6 years old. He's been training BJJ 20 years. Guy's got some skills, but the wrestling required to get Hubbard down. And by the way, holy fuck, he's been training BJJ for 20 years and he's a black belt. Hubbard's already dealt with that twice, so that shouldn't be an issue. It's that Solecki's game plan will be slow the fight down. The takedowns slow the fight down. The clinch slows the fight down. Hubbard not really throwing a ton of punches anyways. It's going to slow the fight down. So when you look at Hubbard at a price tag of $7,800, he really does need that 3rd round finish.
Yeah.
Because even if he just wins the decision, he'd probably be floating around 70 points. Like, it wouldn't be even up to the $7,800 you're paying for him. If you're out looking for an outright winner, I think you look for there. But as far as DraftKings goes, yeah, you're going to have to take some chances on it for sure. I think if you're looking at the high end, Agapova at 9,300, as Paul mentioned. Valiev, I don't know. Him at 9,100, I think he's a little bit overpriced. I'd let some other people play him, and I would look to move on. Pedro Munhoz, he's definitely live because he just throws caution to the wind. The leg kicks are significant strikes.
Lots of volume.
So even if he's coming up
High
short
score.
on his punches, yeah, exactly. And he's not going to get Frankie down with the takedowns. But if Frankie, for whatever reason, mixes up the wrestling, and I talked about that's a good path for him.
Durability's gone.
Maybe the durability's
That has
gone,
to be
and he has
factored in.
5 rounds to work with. He hit Aljamain over 100 significant strikes in a 3-round fight. This guy can throw.
So
Definitely
you could get
throw.
up over 150 significant strikes. Then you're doing, you have 75 points right there, plus the decision, you're over 100 points.
So as far as the 9,000, and when we
deep.
get to Frankie, Frankie's a good play as well. But as far as the high-end guys go, Munhoz has very high
Munhoz
upside.
will be a lot. I feel, I don't know. I don't have a real pulse on the scene right now, but I figure Munhoz will probably be super, super high owned. I would wonder how many people are going to click on Frankie Edgar this week.
Now you're going to want...
Edgar might be the only person, like he's the only name on this card I recognize.
That's casual underdog. The casual underdog click will be Frankie Edgar probably. It's the only name they recognize. That's actually a good point, Pat. It's tough. I'm going to have, in DraftKings, I'm going to be targeting Menifield or St. Preux. I feel like the Menifield, if he gets the first round knockout, you're going to need him. OSP could win this fight, and he doesn't end up on any sort of optimal. Then you have Rodriguez versus Prachnio. That's another interesting one. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to play Austin Hubbard on DraftKings. I think I'm going to just have a straight bet on him. I want the winner of Ike Villanueva versus Jordan Wright. God help me. On that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
What I'm looking at is I need Jordan Wright. I need Jordan Wright to be $6,900.
Very nice.
And I'm fucking rolling, baby. Yeah, you're just going to have a lot of people that are... it's hard to go 6 for 6 when you have that many landmines. It's a landmine. But yeah, as far as some of the people that I'd be targeting at the top, we talked about Agapova. Menifield's got high upside. Pedro Munhoz got high upside. Daniel Rodriguez has got high upside. Yeah. Looking elsewhere on the card, your punts, and I'm not a huge punt guy, but if you're looking for a punt, then Frankie Edgar at $7,200. If he's going to go 5 rounds, he's going to get takedowns, he's going to get strikes. He ends up winning this fight. He ends up catching him. $7,200 is a great price tag on him. Marcin Prachnio, $7,300. His only path to victory is just nail something on Mike Rodriguez,
but yeah.
which has 73.
Oh, that right, right?
Yeah, it's all good.
89, 73, I guess. whatever.
Well, yeah.
73.
Yeah. Anyways, doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that he's gonna have, if he does win, he's looking to get himself a first round knockout. He could go. Takashi Sato, $7,500. Geez, when the guy does win, they're all first round knockouts. Do I think he knocks out Rodriguez personally? No. But the ways Takashi Sato wins fights, he's gonna be a big DK play. Lemos, 7,600, not a bad play. This Semelsberger guy, all the money coming in on him, like Pat said, value is definitely there. And then outside of that, yeah, OSP because you could submit him late. And then it falls off pretty rapidly. I think this card, because it's so volatile, everybody has got a good shot. Pedro could score big. Frankie could score big. Okay, that's boom. Alonzo, geez, he could knock him out. Sam Preux could submit him later. Okay, they could both score big. Rodriguez could knock him out in the first round. Prachnio could knock him out in the first round. They could both score big. Agapova could knock her in the first round. Shayna Dobson cannot score big.
I disagree. She's
Rodriguez
gonna win
can
first round
land
knockout. I just
over
correlated,
100.
I just now have a 500 to 1 bet, so I'm good to go.
Rodriguez landed over 170 significant strikes his last time out. He could be a massive scorer. Takashi Sato is a first-round knockout machine. He could be a high-round scorer. Mazika Inoue just goes and goes and goes. Could be a high-round scorer. Lemos could be on the juice. Could be a high-round scorer. Selecki, BJJ Black Belt, all the wrestling. Takedowns,
Is she
takedowns,
married to
takedowns.
Giacomo Lemos, who was supposed to fight in the UFC and then failed
be.
the drug test and never fought in the UFC?
Could be for sure. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. But I remember he was supposed to fight Tanner Bozer. And then, he tested positive before he even fought. That was the end of him.
Bozer
You see
would've won.
a couple guys, they resurface later on, but he'd be like Geronimo dos Santos, if you remember him. Giant Brazilian badass. Go wiki a picture of him. You'll shit your pants. I don't even know how he's going to make 265, man. He's pretty much the most jacked guy you've ever seen in your life. Man, he got Hep C in the pre-fight test. They never let him fight again in the UFC, but he's fought like 20 times outside the UFC. Don't fight Geronimo dos Santos because he either knocks you out really quick or gives you Hep C. It's a fucking lose-lose, man.
Doesn't sound like a good time.
Moving on to the PRP really quick. I'm going to go with Pedro Munhoz. Again, I don't like the value, and I want to live bet that one to try to get better value on it because I can't rate Frankie off. Legendary status, just maybe doesn't got one left in the tank. We're going to go Menifield. Hard to feel good about that. We're taking Mike Rodriguez. Hard to feel about that. I want Mike Rodriguez by knockout specifically. Menifield, it could be a decision, so I'll just take that one straight up. Agapova, you want her by finish. Knockout, submission. They're both plus money. Have a look at that. Daniel Rodriguez, I got him winning 185. Mazika Inoue, that's my girl. Gonna roll with here. 140 seems like the price is off, and for that reason, maybe I'm buying too much into it, but is what it is. Austin Hubbard, he's officially gonna be dog number 1. Jordan Wright, we don't know what the price is on it.
Probably gonna be the dog.
I'm hoping it's gonna be a good price tag, and if the price is right on Jordan Wright, then how could you be wrong?
Oh, God.
Carlson minus versus Matthew Semelsberger, that's a fat pass. But I, again, will definitely keep looking into it and just research as much into these guys and figure out their story. And then value is 525. It's not a good price tag. It's not the price tag you want, but he is one of the favorites on the card. He has the tag of one of the safer picks on the card. And not only do I think I'll have some value, some shares of him leading up to the fight, it's another one that I'm going to look to maybe get a better price tag after the first round if Striegl comes out well. And if Striegl comes out and looks fucking awesome, then hedge out. I don't know. It's just Striegl. It's hard to get a good read on him, and this is a bad matchup for him. So the layoff's going to kill him. The competition's going to kill him. Valiev gets the win. So we effectively got 2 underdogs, Hubbard and Wright. How could you feel great about that, Paul?
It's
I got a question.
It's not smooth sailing through this one this week. Sorry if it's like, hey, what do I do? It's like we're kind of still looking at the board going, hey, what do I do?
Yeah, and I got a feeling they're either going to add something or subtract something that's going to fall off.
Or like 3 of these people are going
Preux
to turn
might
ill
bail.
because we're in Vegas and COVID is very much around.
Hubbard versus Solecki was already scheduled once. Solecki pulled out, which is the reason Max Roshkop took the fight on 10 days' notice because Solecki bailed. Well, Alvin St. Preux's got to cut 36 pounds. Marcin Prachnio hasn't fought in 2 years. Shane Dobson's going to Google Agapova's name at some point. There could be a lot of people bailing out. Mark Striegl, fuck, he's wishy-washy at times. He's bailed out of a lot of fights with injuries.
So yeah, everything's real smooth sailing.
Jordan
here,
Wright,
guys.
Villanueva.
Based on that,
Someone's falling off.
with all these like weird props that are out there, right? So you said that like most of these fights, like the dog's path to winning some of these fights is just gonna be like first round knockout. What if you took like 6 of them and bet by decision, not by decision, by knockout or inside the distance, and played like a 3-way round robin with them? Like if you won one of those 3, like you won 3 of the 6, you're probably gonna either break even or be up a little bit. You win 4 of the 6, you're up a bunch of money.
Right. So that's what Caveman Sam does. He's got his spreadsheets laid out. He's got his little computer, and he just enters in all the stats. Like he'll enter in the guys from money came in them, how much money came in, how often does money coming in at how much money, like let's say it's X amount of money comes in 1 week before the fight. How many times is the guy that X amount of money came in before the fight with the fight? It's all spread out. And then as a result, you end up betting 6 dogs that you don't think are going to win under the pretense of value. That's fine. I'm sure there's a way to make money there. I don't like betting on somebody I don't think is going to win. It's just not who I am. And as much as I can say there's value on them, the only time I'll do that is it's Frankie, Edgar, Pedro Munhoz. It's the end of the night, and I put a few bucks on Frankie just for the fuck of it. Let's say that was the case. I don't like betting guys I think are going to lose on the pretense of, well, the price is bad on the favorite. I'd rather just pass on it.
That's what historically is worth.
Yeah. A dog or pass,
just
the
being
dog
like,
has to have
I
path
think he
to
wins
victory.
like 2 out of 10 times. It's just like, well.
Right. So I think
the odds would indicate that it's a good play, but it's just like my heart tells me that I don't want to bet a person I think is going to lose.
Yeah. That's exactly what it comes. And where that burnt me last week, it also has helped me in a point, right? I thought John Dobson had keys to beat Merab. And right before I went to bed, I was like, in my heart of hearts, I don't think Merab loses. I just can't do it. But I want to bet Vera over O'Malley, and we talked about it on the show, and the price was fucking off, and the value side was Marlon Vera, and I really thought I was going to go to decision. Fucking broken ankle. Regardless, I went to go bet it, and I pussed out for the same reason. I was like, in my heart of hearts, I think O'Malley's just going to hang it on the inside. Vera's not going to throw a ton. As the first round was progressing, Vera wasn't really throwing a ton, but that's just who he is, part of the game plan. It's what we want a live bet. Remember we talked about that was another live bet spot. Live bet, Vera after the first round.
Yeah,
when he drops the first round. Had O'Malley not broken his ankle, Vera would have lost that first round, and you would have got a killer price on him.
The odds had really shifted there.
When he
I
broke
was
his
I was
ankle.
monitoring it.
Oh.
Like by the time like they reacted quick.
Well, what did it go off as?
Like when he was like kicking off on his
because
foot.
he broke his ankle.
No, I know, but like they reacted really fast. There was hardly a window to jump in on that.
No, I'm saying you couldn't live bet that one. I'm saying let's say O'Malley doesn't break his ankle in the first round, right? It's just
Did he break his ankle?
Did you not watch the replay? It looked like I don't know.
I mean,
I
this
don't
is
know.
what the
I
guy
don't
did that
know,
other time, and there was
man.
nothing
Am I
wrong
a
with his
doctor?
ankle.
Do I look like a doctor?
Against
had a
Sukumatat, he did the same
boo-boo.
thing. Nothing actually broke, and he was unable to. I don't know. He just has weak ankles.
He's got weak ankles. That's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna have to get on strength and conditioning program.
he
Oh
needs to-
wait, he already tested positive twice.
Sorry, what's that?
He needs to get Steph Curry's training.
Yeah. All right. I think we've said all we can.
Oh
about
yeah,
this.
subscribe to the Mayo Media Network.
Yes.
Link is in the description.
I was gonna say sub now, so that 2-3 weeks from now, when it starts popping up there, you're already ahead of the curve. If it's not here on the DraftKings YouTube channel, it'll be on the Mayo Media Network channel, which you're already subbed to. So when I get 150, where's the pod? Why is the pod not out? You weren't listening.
Not listening.
And I'm taking notes.
Ooh.
I'm not actually taking notes. Anyway, thank you to Cody Saftic breaking down the fights with me as always. Thank you to Pat behind the scenes for all the props and questions and keeping us in line. For Cody and Pat, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.
MMA experience! Experience!